Today is Thursday, May 19th, 2022. This video is the introductory video on step 3 multiple choice question tutorial. So we'll see what it's about, and we'll approach and take the practice questions that are for free on usmle.org. And the idea is that this helps you out answering questions, or that you know how to navigate the exam better. If you already took the test, probably this introductory video isn't for you, because this introductory video will be basically on the initial screens. We are prompted in order to understand how the test will work, and where we can mark correct answers, and what does this square right here mean, and what does this bullet point here mean, and all that. So if you already understand that, jump to the next video. The next video will actually be me taking the questions one by one, and this might help you out, because first of all, I'd recommend you to trying to take the question yourself, but I'll take on all of these questions without reading them, and we'll also think out loud to see if I'm actually doing what's right or what's wrong, and give me feedback if my approach and test taking strategies work, or what you think about them. So without further ado, how do we get to this tutorial right here? Okay, this is fundamental, this is vital. Before any step exam, you have to understand how the software works. Of course, in the actual exam, you'll have this tutorial right here in front of you, but I don't recommend you wasting time scrolling through this tutorial, because it's for free and you can read it beforehand. That's the reason why I'm doing this video, so you can follow it with me in a quick fashion, and you can see this video several times if you still aren't used to the software, and if not, you can also see it maybe if there's something that helps you. So first of all, how do we get there? First of all, if you're taking whichever step 1, 2, 3, searching your navigator, step 3 practice questions. That's an easy way. It will take you right here. One of those first searches will say usmle.org. Click on that, then go to prepare for your exam, choose the step you are going to take, in my case step 3. After that, go to sample test questions and scroll down to interactive testing experience. So you have to do the real deal. This is what I recommend, and right here it says step 3 tutorial. So that's the first video we're gonna make, which is actually this window right here. So let's do this quick. First of all, it is strongly encouraged to perform the audio calibration before proceeding to your examination, in order to check audio headphones and sound levels. You should report any problems to the proctor at that time. So once you sit down in the computer, the tutorial screens pop up, and since you have already seen this video, you will be ready to just go and check wherever it says media or it says audio. Just click on next pretty quickly, and it will take you to a page where you can test your audio system. So of course, I'm at home. This is my own headset, but you'll have a cord. Probably it won't be cordless. You'll have a cord attached. So be ready to put that on, and go to that section where you can actually check that the audio levels are okay. Some people actually take the exam with that headset on. Other people don't. Some people actually put on noise canceling headphones, which are provided by Prometric, and you can also take your noise canceling headset if you wish. It can't be digital, it has to be cordless. So I would recommend you knowing what's your prometric center and the quality of the materials they might have, because you might get there and they might have a headset that is pretty tough on the ears, and that won't be a good experience because you'll be 7 hours with them, or in some occasions more. So I like using those noise canceling headsets, because sometimes you have someone beside you and they're working on a different test and they're writing things down, or they're stressed out and they're clearing their throat a lot. You don't want to be distracted. So if you're easily distracted, go and buy yourself a pair of headsets. I actually bought one specifically for the exam, and I'll probably use it for step 3. At least take it. It has to be approved by the proctor, so you can enter this inside the testing vicinity, because if you're taking a headset that is electric digital, they won't let it in. So yeah, that's about the headset. But of course they will have their own headsets. You might try luck and it might work, but I would recommend planning and paying for a practice session, so you get the feel of the prometric center where you're going to take the test. I'll probably talk about practice sessions in another video. So okay, that's about the headset. So once you master the tutorial, be sure you get to the exam, start the tutorial, just check the headset sound that it works, and move on. Check the mouse that it is functioning and all that, and the keyboard if you use the keyboard. And after that, if everything's fine, move forward. If there's any sort of problem, let the proctor know immediately. So there are people that take the test using the mouse. I only use the mouse, but now that I see that I could also use the keyboard, maybe that could help me out answering questions quicker. I'm not sure. I'm gonna start using that from now on. For example, A, B, C, D, and E, you can just press the button and maybe have the mouse up here and move the mouse right here, and it might save some seconds. Sometimes seconds are precious here. So let's move on. That's all it says there. Okay, if you use the mouse, of course, point and click. So if you're getting to this exam, you have already used the mouse before, and you know how to point and just click. Click on the left side. That's the usual way this is formatted. You can do a right click on the right, but it basically won't help you at all in the exam. So other functions of the mouse, double click, I don't remember it being useful in anything in the exam. Only if the mouse stays stuck, you can double click out of this section, so that might help. So what else? Drag. So this function, you can click, maintain it pressed, and move windows on the screen. When will this work out in the test? It's basically when you have a drag ad, you open it up and you are trying to read the question, and this huge drag ad, they don't make it, the software, so that it opens up on the side. Sometimes they do, sometimes it's something like this. So if it's in the way for you answering, you just have to click and drag, and that's where dragging will help you out. And okay, so screen layout features. So let's look at this upper portion. This will tell you in which item you are on the test. So item 4 out of 28, and in which block you are. You probably won't have to be seeing this. I usually ignore this. I totally ignore it. I usually look on this side, because usually most of these step exams are 38 to 40 questions. So this would mean it usually is formatted up to here. So you will see 40 questions getting up to here, and of course each of them will be enumerated. So you basically don't have to look at this right here. Sometimes when you forget how many blocks you've done, and is this my 5th or my 6th block. I remember this happened to me during step 1 or step 2, and I wasn't sure if I was missing 2 blocks or not. I just forgot of this because I never look at it. So after I finished the block, I asked the proctor how many more to go. So if you forget what block you're on, look at the upper left corner. This mark button is very, very useful. So what I would recommend you doing with the mark button is when you have a question that is tough, mark the one you think is the best choice, but don't waste too much time on it, and just mark the question and move on. So go on to the next question, and when you finish it all up, you know that there are certain questions you have to give a second check. That's where you go to the marked questions. And what I would do in the past is that once I would answer this marked question and already have no doubt about it or wouldn't change it at all, I would unmark it and continue. After doing two-step exams, now working on my third, what I would actually do for better time management maybe is mark the question, mark several, the ones you need to mark and go back to, and keep on working on it. Once you're finished, go back only to the marked questions, because first look at the marked questions only. So you'll see this one, you'll see this one, and so at the end of the exam, you go back to this marked question, you answer it. And if you're fine with it, go on. Okay, and go on to the next marked one. If you're fine with it, move on. If you aren't sure about it and you're like, I would like to come back to this one, but I have to go back to this marked one and this one, and I don't want to waste too much time on this one, what I would probably recommend and do is this. I would just write a note, question mark, type in whatever, save and close, and leave. Go to the next marked one and choose the answer, go and choose the answer. And after that, if you still have time, you have two options. You could go and see all the ones you didn't mark. So I would recommend you trying to do that, but sometimes you have 1 minute left and you won't be able to do this right here. Go one by one. That's what I would recommend. But if you are very short of time and you are maybe happy of those you didn't mark, you know that you have this one with a second mark, which is this pencil right here. The pencil is this note we added, so you can review it again. So it's sort of a second mark. It would work as a second marking without there actually being an option for a second mark. That is what I would basically recommend you doing. Okay, so we already know what the mark is. So on mark it, and previous and next. So this is how I usually navigate from question to question. I mark a question and press on next. But seeing that the keyboard works, I'm not sure if I can press next with the keyboard. It's not working here, but I would recommend you doing it at home. If you can press next and it takes you to the next question, maybe you just marked option A right here. So if you want to save time, you can just press the right button instead of going back here and marking it. Because remember, this is a marathon. You will be here sitting down for 7 hours, not 7 hours straight, basically sometimes 8 hours. You'll have your breaks, but after having to answer 320 or so questions, this does make a difference sometimes. So maybe cutting corners wherever you can might be a good idea. So lab values. So you can see the labs right here. How does this work? You just press on the labs, and for example, you're looking for glucose, so you can type in the entirety of it, but you know that there's not many words with glucose, so you just type the letters necessary. It has to be typed correctly, because if you write it with a typo, it won't understand, and that's why you are seeing that it's the yellow color is disappearing when I'm typing another letter that isn't a C for glucose. So why does this yellow or this highlight, why do they highlight? It's because the word glucose is found in this section and in this section. So if you're looking for glucose and you're very stressed out with the exam and everything, you want to see the normal range, don't go here because there's no glucose right here. Go here and here. So here will be glucose in the blood, and here will be glucose in cerebrospinal fluid. That's the way it functions with everything. There are things that you won't find at all. For example, sometimes I've looked for lipase. No lipase here. Don't start typing it out and looking for here, and here. It's not there. Amylase is. So just in this place, okay? So after you do many questions, you'll know what you could look for and what you won't be able to look for. That's the way you can use the labs. Some people actually open this lab sheet and leave it right there and continue their exam because it just stays there. But it actually, in my case, I don't like it because it sometimes might distract me, so I close it again. And let's continue. We already saw the labs, the notes, we already know how to use them. I really don't know why you will be typing notes here. Remember to buy groceries. You won't be doing that in the actual exam because you don't need probably notes. Or remember to study. No, you're in the exam. You probably won't need the notes. I'm not sure if you use them. Some people would. Why would this work if you actually, I don't know. So the only utility I find in these notes is using it as a surrogate or as another way of double marking a question. You just mark it and place a question mark here, save and close. Or someone could actually say, okay, I'll use the pencil in order for me to know I'm sure, but I'm doubting between two questions. So you are the one who decides what this pencil mark will work or not. Many people never use it. As I said, I use it to double mark a question in case I marked it once and I'm not sure and have seen it twice and want to go a third time. So that's where I use this pencil and I just type in anything, save and close. Okay, so the calculator, this is very useful in the biostatistic questions. Then they are asking you for you to calculate the relative risk or the odds ratio, and then you have to do some fractions, and that's why the calculator is useful. Reverse color is if you like it better. You will always be taking these exams during the day. So if it were at night, I would understand this would be easier. But maybe this is easier on your eyes, so you might reverse the color. In my case, I'm fine with I am accustomed to this this testing format and color. I'm using glasses which have no sort of augmentation. They are just blue light protectors. So actually, if you are 7 hours without glasses, without blue light protector, you'll actually get way more tired of seeing the screen. So this might probably work out. What else? And this is the text if you want to zoom in or zoom out. So these questions are pretty lengthy. So what I would do if I were you, I would get closer to the computer if I can, because if you try to make this larger, it might change. If there's a very long vignette and there's a drag ad, it might distort it a little, so you might have to go back to this small case. So I prefer just getting used to seeing this in one size of font. If it were for me, I would always use this one. No, a little less than this probably, but this is way too big, so I don't want to be scrolling and wasting time. So yeah, sometimes tiny letters, but you will get through it probably faster. And what else? Block time remaining, this is down on the left. So that's a very important place to focus on if you haven't been used to taking many questions. you will have to see the time and you have to manage time correctly. You will have 1 hour for approximately 40 questions. That's it. That is like, I believe it's like 90 seconds per question, but you won't be going on to other questions every 90 seconds. You will have an internal clock that you will develop as you proceed uh, working on these questions more and more. But let's say you finished, you got to question 40, you have a whole lot of marked questions you're not sure of. It's good that you see, okay, I have 10 minutes pending to finish the exam or only 5. If you have 5, you just have time to see the marked questions. If you have 10 minutes, you could maybe started from the beginning and go, okay, go pretty fast through it, okay? So let's see what else. We already saw that. This lock screen, I've never used it in my life, and I don't think I'll be using it soon. Okay, but before going to the lock screen, you can click on block time remaining, and you can see that this will show you elapsed time, length of block, but I find this sort of useless. Never used it in all my examinations. Probably you won't need it. I think it's enough for you to know that you have X time remaining in that block, and it's not necessary for you to know that you're in the third or fourth block, because all that matters is the present moment, the present hour of examination. So this one right here is a lock, and this is if you have to take an unauthorized break. So this is basically if you are in the middle of a block, question number 20, and lightning is hitting very hard and you can't listen to the media, or you're frightened, you got a panic attack, you have to go to the bathroom urgently, there is where you have to lock this. If you lock it, it will actually tell you that you are taking an unauthorized break, and this might look pretty bad in your, once you receive your grades, the programs might see you took unauthorized breaks, and this is a red flag in general for programs, because you're pausing the exam in the middle of it, and this is just a lose situation, because this will be sent out to your programs, and also the time will keep on progressing. So it's difficult enough to use the whole time that's given for you for the exam. Now imagine pausing the exam halfway, go to the bathroom. That will take you 3 to 5 minutes, and the elapsed time will keep on advancing. That's only if you have an emergency. So never use that, hopefully, and return to your exam and finish the block, and after that you could take a break. Okay, so end block won't. Who will choose to end the block starting and off? No one. Someone that has to leave right now and will probably reschedule because he or she has an emergency of some sort. So this end block, I've actually never even pressed it. I just, when I finish checking my questions, there's usually 20 seconds left, and I just let the clock run out, and I'm giving it always a second check. But there's people that take these exams very fast, very quick. So maybe you're 10 minutes, you have 10 minutes extra, which would be sort of strange. Probably you didn't do very well. And if you did well, you're a savant or something like that. In that case, you would end the block and take a break. And yeah. Okay, let's go on. Highlight. Okay, this is pretty important, because if you're reading a question, and these vignettes are usually huge, some things might not stick to your mind. So you might be reading about a patient that has a urinary tract infection, and the patient has a positive pregnancy test. So you might better highlight that, because after you read that and you read 8 more sentences, you might forget she was pregnant, and might send the patient trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole, which actually isn't a good idea during pregnancy. So things like those, I would recommend highlighting. I wouldn't recommend you highlighting too much of the text, because that will make your hands start to get tired beforehand and just waste time. So just key points, key aspects, try to highlight them. An example would be a patient with you think a patient is schizophrenic, and it says the symptoms have been ongoing for 2 months. So that's important. So and in the options, they're asking you for the diagnosis, and you have schizophrenia and you have schizophreniform disorder. So the main difference between those two is time. So be sure to read all the options, and you already highlighted 2 months, you'll be able to answer the question correctly. Strike out a response. So this is how you choose an answer. You just go here, click on it. Let's see if the keyboard is working. B. Okay, I'm not using the mouse, I'm just marking on D. Okay, it's working. That's a good idea. So you could have the mouse up here, and you could just choose A, B, C, or D. Actually, you could do that with your left hand pretty quickly. Okay, so I'll start practicing that, and that might be helpful for you guys as well. So, cutting corners. What else? If you want to mark a question, so something I recommend is that you strike out anything that isn't a correct answer. So the capital of the United States, we didn't read anything of this. Let's say this is talking about American US history, and they're asking about the capital of the US. So right here, you know it's not in New York for sure, so you want to mark it out. So you have to like click and drag one letter. That's how you'll mark it out. In some cases, you can just click on it, but here I'm clicking and it doesn't strike it out. So if it doesn't strike it out, you have to click and drag one letter, and there it is. You know it's not New York. You know it's not New York, but you're not sure between DC and Delaware. So you leave those two right there. Since you're not sure, what will you do? You won't stay here. You won't waste time. You will mark number one. You will choose any of the two, whichever feels better. Okay, so I'm marking this one, and I'm choosing this one, and I'm going to mark it. I have to go back later. So once I finish the whole test, okay, this one was marked. So you can change your answer right here. Okay, it's this one, and move on. What else? Timer. So I already explained about clicking this right here. Wouldn't find it useful, but you check it out on your own if it works. Don't think so. The ending, I already talked about the ending. So end block, and I would just mark on this if you're missing, if you already finished everything, if you already checked everything, if you're ready to take a break, or maybe if you ran through it and you just can't deal with it anymore and you have to go eat something, well, you'll have to end the block and go eat. But at least mark something on every question. Don't leave the stones unturned. What do I want to say by this? Is this right here. So here's a bullet point. What does this mean? It's that I didn't choose an answer for this question. So once you finish answering everything, you should see that there is no question with a bullet point right next to it. How do we eliminate that bullet point? By going to the question and marking on something. So you won't get deducted any points for not choosing an answer. So this might be wrong. The answer might be C, but you won't lose a point for marking B. The only thing you can do is maybe having good luck and answering correctly. If you're unsure, mark it right here. If you finish the exam, went to this marked question and are still doubting it and want to come back, okay, so what I would recommend is, okay, if you are using the method of unmarking once you already choose, well, you will leave it marked and we'll come back to it. But if you are not unmarking them, I would say, okay, notes, point, save and close. I have to go back to this one again, third time. And yeah, that's about this one. That's what I wanted to let you guys know about this. Delete note. Let's move on to see authorized breaks usually occur after you finish the block. Once you finish the block, you will get this right here. What does this mean? Well, you're ready to just rest or you're ready to go on another block. I would recommend you rest between every block. So even if it's 5 minutes or less, I would recommend you stretch out for a second. But if you are fully energized, I also understand that you finish a block and you want to go on to a next block and you just press next. But be sure how you manage your time. Be sure that you don't have to pee in the middle of a block, and be sure that you go. I actually, in my step 2 exam, between every block, I went to the bathroom. That's the first thing I did. So as soon as I finished the test, the block, the hour was over, I would just press take a break. I wouldn't leave this right here because I didn't trust the software to do it for me. So I pressed on take a break and went very quickly, almost run into the bathroom, and sometimes would eat. I also remember to eat. You have to eat, you have to take these snacks and everything. I will probably talk about that in another video. Unauthorized breaks, we already talked about this. This would be using this lock sign in the middle of a test. Wouldn't recommend it, but if you have to do it and you have a good reason for it, go for it. I know people that have had diarrhea during the exam and had to go to the bathroom. They had to choose unauthorized breaks, and they actually did very well and were accepted into very competitive programs. And that's a success story. You had to take an unauthorized break, but once you are interviewed, they tell you, why did you take this? Hey, well, I had diarrhea. I had to go to the bathroom, and your scores were good. Even with this break, we accept that. You're honest, very good. But if not, don't take it. Once you have come back to the exam, be it in an unauthorized break or you're coming back from a usual break, you have to enter your CIN number. So you have this number written down in the piece of paper provided and make it pretty large so you can see it, almost huge, so you don't have to deal with typos, and be sure check it twice before you go sit down and take the exam, because if not, imagine losing 2 to 3 minutes just because you wrote a different candidate number than the one you had. Then reduced time warning. I've never seen this. This is in case you are starting a block without the allotted one hour. That would be because you are taking way too long breaks and you are making your blocks be shorter and shorter. But yeah, so I would recommend you use your time wisely, practice a lot. This one I have seen almost always, which is time expiration warning. It prompts you and tells you you're missing 5 minutes in this exam, and this will pop up right here in the down inferior left corner. We already talked about the labs, so everything's good with that. Only additional comment is that you might find one of these values that isn't concordant with what they're saying here in different units. So you can press this button right here, SI reference intervals, and it should show you the same form of measurement. For example, milliequivalents to millimoles. In general, I haven't encountered this. The test is usually made for you not having to click on this. I actually learned you can click on this if you want during this tutorial. Okay, there you have it, and we already talked about this. Answering questions on the test, we already all talked about this as well. Remember to read all the options because these tests are very tricky, and oftentimes you can see a question that seems so obvious that it's option A. You didn't read the vignette, and actually option D was a better answer. And this test is made in a sense that you have to mark the best answer, meaning that you might have three answers that may be correct, but one is even more correct. Scroll bar. So you know how to scroll up and down. If the question is too long, just scroll. I didn't read these questions, so don't judge me on my answers. I will actually make a video, this mini series. This is the first one, and after this I will tackle each free practice question of this interactive module separately in short videos, so you can see what is my train of thought, and we can answer it together. So exhibit button. Okay, sometimes you have a drug ad, so here it might say drug ad or exhibit. Maybe they're trying to show you a picture. If you don't click on it, you won't see it. Or sometimes here you can see it says EKG and it is underlined and in blue. You have to click on it and it will open up an EKG. If not, just click on exhibit and okay, here it is. So okay, now this plus the story, that's how you'll mark. And there's a few questions that might involve media. Basically, the setting is like this in the next page, which is pretty intuitive. So here is your stethoscope. You can change it from place here, here, and here. So wherever there's the yellow circle, you can choose that as the foci where you want to auscultate the patient. So be sure, this won't sound the same here or here. So be sure to examine the patient correctly as you would in real life. Here is the play button. Here, sometimes so you can think it through better, click on this, and this means turn repeat on. So it will repeat and repeat and repeat instead of you play again once again and start clicking this while you're trying to read this. So here's the volume. Be sure not to go depth, right? And that's it about the media. Sometimes you can see here a video, sometimes you'll just listen to this, and that's basically it. So this right here, this clock won't tell you much usually. Okay, and that clock has not, this clock here has nothing to do with the actual test time. So this has to do with the case you're seeing. And here, sequential item. This is very important. What does this mean? This is the box where you can see why are these two questions enclosed in a box. That's because those two questions are related. So it's the same case, probably two different questions of the same case. So you usually have to answer, or you always have to answer the first question in order for you to answer the second one. So you go to the first question, that's why I haven't answered them. So you mark the first one, and here it says the following apply for the next two items. Okay, we know that because we already saw this box encircling it. But what happens here? Be sure that whatever you mark is the choice you really want, because if you're not sure about this answer, you won't be able to come back to it after you click on mark it and proceed to next item. Actually, if you leave this blank and you click on proceed to next item, you won't be able to change this. So let's show you an example. I'm marking right here, marking B. Okay, I read it and click on proceed to next item. And right here, proceed. And then I say, but this I'm reading right here makes me actually want to change this answer from B to D. But I click on it and nothing happens. That's because it's made in a way that it's sequential. If you answer this and click on proceed, you won't be able to go back to it. So what I would do if I were you, is that if I'm unsure of item 1 in sequential questions, I would mark them. So let's do the same thing for the drug ad. So let's proceed. Same thing with this drug ad. Well, actually not the same thing, because here you have item 1 and 2 on the same screen. When they're on the same screen, usually you can change this option, because the test is made that if answering, or yeah, it's sequential because you answer the first one and the second question might give you the answer to the first one. That's why you can't change it once you clicked on proceed. So don't risk it. If I were you, even if it's on the same page, I wouldn't click on proceed, because that would lock it unless I'm very sure about it. If I'm unsure, I wouldn't click on proceed. For example, let's go back to the initial option. I would click on B. Okay, but I wouldn't proceed. So I wouldn't go see the next question, because the only way to see the next question is by clicking proceed. So I would mark this question, leave it with the option I would actually choose, and jump to a different question. Would go to drug ad. And at the end of the exam, when I'm checking the marked questions, I would actually go back knowing that I haven't even seen this question because I haven't clicked on proceed, and that would give me the chance to change these questions around. Okay, drug ads. So it's the same story for everything. So on the right side, you have, yeah, this extract showing you graphs, regressions, 2x2 tables, whatever. And here's the drug ad, and here are the options. So don't let this bog you down. This usually takes a little more time, but be focused and try to start reading the question. Great, very good recommendation is start off reading the question, and after that, look at the options. Some options are wrong just without having to read the context. So those questions, you would mark them wrong, but I'm unsure of these. So you go and read this, you skim through it. You have to look at this. Okay, let's see. Yes, no. Okay, mark one and move on. If you're unsure, okay, if you've been there more than a minute or so, mark it and move on, and then you'll come back. Remember, all of these questions are worth exactly the same. So don't feel a hero if you spent 5 minutes on this huge question and didn't answer the last question, which was so easy that you didn't even have to. It was one sentence long and was so easy, but you didn't have the time to get to it. That's what I wouldn't hope you doing. And let's see, drug ads, abstract form. Let's see, abstract. Yeah, so you're seeing an abstract, same case as the drugs. So just so you familiarize, take these practice questions and yeah, start seeing abstracts, and you'll start seeing the trend and understand where things are placed in the abstracts, and that's it. So you can see this box enclosing these three questions. So the three questions are about the same topic, and I haven't answered any because you're seeing the bullet points right here. And after that, once you finish the whole test, you'll get a survey that you can answer it if you wish or not, about your feedback on the experience. And in the end, it's very important that you take, as you leave the testing center, take the printout of this notice documenting that you appeared for the day's testing session. They won't give you the grade right there, but they'll give you the information necessary for you to have in case you never receive your score. You have this paper and you show them and you're like, okay, so give me 100, right? So 100 would be like a 280 or something. And that's it. So that being said, we're ready to tackle any step exam. Step 1, 2, well, almost everything in step 3. Step 3 has a couple more details or specifications, which are some cases that are a little longer and you have to approach them differently. They are interactive, similar to seeing a patient in real world, but that's in another video. So search for my videos called CCS cases mini series, where I actually go through the tutorial and practice questions on it. So see you in the next one. Good luck.